and it brings up the thread. Okay, now most machines do that, but this one does it automatically when you start stitching, so you don't have to bother about bringing the thread through every time you start stitching. So that's just an automatic feature on this machine. So that there is the bottom bobbin and bobbin case features on the machine itself. Now here, what I have here is an accessory box. Most machines come with these accessory boxes, and they simply slide in and out like so. If I take this off, what it does is it then has a free arm, and what a free arm does is you can slide tubular fabrics on here. Say if you're working on a sleeve, or you're working on a hem of a pair of trousers, you can simply slide the fabric onto the free arm, and you can then just be free to stitch only the top part of the sleeve that you're working on, or the hem of the trousers, rather than having to bring the fabric away from itself in order to get into the top part. You don't have to worry about that, because you can just slide the fabric onto this free arm. So it's really easy. Now with this machine as well, it comes with a sewing table, which I can just slide on to the machine, just like so. It's a little tricky, but that is then now a sewing table. Now if your machine doesn't come with this, a lot of machines you can buy a separate part to be able to fit onto the machine, and it's a sewing table, and it's really easy because it gives this larger expanse of sewing area. Okay, now over here we have a back tack button, and what that does is it simply backs the fabric, goes backwards. So if I was to press this button, the fabric goes backwards. If I release, it then goes forwards again, and that is always used to secure the fabric at the beginning of a seam. Okay, so this is the back tack function. Over here we have the display panel for all of the various stitches, and here we have the different buttons to control this panel here. So for instance, if I press this one, we then produce all of the buttonholes. Okay, so I have the buttonhole screen. If I have this one, we have decorative stitches, okay, which I can press there, and we all have our decorative stitches on there. Here I have a button for the quilting screen, for the different quilting stitches. Okay, so the different quilting stitches there, and here we have a button which goes back to the straight stitch again. Here, these are for the needle, which if I press that, if you watch the needle here, it goes from left to the middle position to the right, and I can also see that here on the display of the computer panel. So it's really easy. These here are for stitch length, so it's the length of the stitch, so we can have longer stitches and we can have shorter stitches. We have here a zigzag stitch, so it again basically that says what it does, and it creates a zigzag for the fabric, and it's the fabric width. Okay, so if I was to do this, it will then make the needle go to a very wide stitch, creating a zigzag. And again, I can see that on here, the width of the stitch. Now this goes up to a 9mm, but if I do it to 0, that means that the needle will always stay in the middle of the foot itself. Right, here we have the peripherals at the side of the sewing machine. Here we have the peripheral for attaching it to a computer. We have here the peripheral for attaching it to an embroidery machine, because this machine does embroidery as well. And here, this is where the plug goes for the pedal, okay, or the sewing machine foot. We also have here a part here which is the free arm system, a lot like an industrial machine. And if I was to move this together with the knee, what happens is it lifts up the sewing machine foot as well. So I can do this completely hands-free. Okay, so the idea of that is when you finish a certain point on a project and you finish at the end of a stitching point where the needle is down into the fabric, okay, again with these machines you can position either the needle to finish in the up position or it can finish in the down position. And what this is for is if when the stitching stops and you are in the down position, you can simply just lift the foot up with your knee, with the knee lift here, turn the fabric because the needle will keep that in place where the fabric is, bring down the foot again, and away you go. And this is absolutely ideal when it comes to that sort of thing. It just makes it a lot easier, and it's how they use them in the industry as well.